I never imagined that painting my deck would end with someone in handcuffs, but that's exactly what went down last weekend. Picture this. I'm up on my ladder, brush in hand, GIVYing my weathered deck a fresh coat of cedar stain. The sun's out, my favorite playlist is humming through my portable speaker, and I'm feeling pretty good about my progress. Then, out of nowhere, I hear this aggressive rattling at my back gate. Before I can even climb down, a voice sharp enough to cut glass slices through the calm. "Stop that right now. You're breaking every rule in the book." The gate flies open, and there stands Linda Harper, though everyone in the neighborhood just calls her the enforcer when she's out of earshot. Her face is already flushed with fury as she storms into my yard, like she's the queen of the block. What happens next is a wild ride that still feels like a fever dream. Paint flying, ladders crashing, and Linda's designer outfit getting a new, unintentional color scheme. By the time the police sirens wail in the distance, I'm pulling up security footage that'll turn this whole mess upside down. I'd only been in Maple Grove for 6 months, thrilled to finally own a home after years of cramped apartments. The place was perfect except for the back deck, which looked like it had been through a war with winter-peeling paint, splintered boards, the works. After settling in and tackling some urgent fixes, I finally had a free weekend to spruce it up. I'm no rookie, so I did my homework. I pored over the HOA handbook, even shot an email to the architectural committee with pics of the neutral stain I'd picked out. Their reply was crystal clear. Basic maintenance like repainting in an approved color didn't need a formal nod. Just to be safe, I checked with a local contractor who confirmed no permits were required for a simple refresh. Armed with that, I grabbed my supplies and got to work. That Saturday morning was pure bliss, just me, my music, and the satisfying swish of the brush. The deck was coming together nicely, and I was about halfway done when Hurricane Linda hit. Linda Harper had been the HOA president for nearly a decade, mostly because no one else wanted the gig bad enough to take her on. My neighbor, Mike, had warned me about her when I moved in. "Steer clear of Linda," he'd said with a smirk. "She thinks she's the mayor, sheriff, and judge rolled into one." I laughed it off, thinking it couldn't be saw that saw bad. Spoiler, it was worse. "What do you think you're doing?" Linda barked, her voice dripping with disdain as she eyed my half-painted deck. Her arms were crossed so tight, I thought she might pop a button. I climbed down from the ladder, keeping my cool. "Just repainting my deck," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Is there an issue?" Her laugh was like nails on a chalkboard. "An issue? Yes, there's an issue. All exterior changes need HOA approval, and that color hasn't been cleared." I pulled out my phone, still calm as a cucumber. "Actually, I checked the handbook and got an email from the committee saying this neutral tone is fine. I've got it right here." Linda didn't even glance at the screen, just swatted the air like my EVY Denke was a pesky fly. "I don't need to see that. The rules changed at our last meeting, and as president, my word is final." I raised an eyebrow. "When were we notified about this change?" Her eyes narrowed. "That's not my problem. What saw my problem is you're in violation. That's a due law 1,000 fine per day until you fix this. $1,000 a day for a color that's basically the same as the original." I said, my patience starting to fray, but my voice steady. "That's a bit much, don't you think?" Linda stepped closer, jabbing a finger in my face. "Don't test me. I can make your life very difficult around here." With that, she spun around and marched out, tossing over her shoulder, "I expect this fixed by tomorrow." I was rattled, but finished what I could that day. That night, I emailed the other HOA board members, attaching my correspondence with the committee and asking about Linda's so-called rule change. 2 members replied quickly, confirming no such change existed and apologizing for the mix-up. I went to bed feeling VY indicated, ready to wrap up the project the next day. But when I stepped onto my deck the next morning, my stomach dropped. The fresh stain was streaked with some harsh chemical that had eaten through my work. Splinters were gouged into the wood, and my paint cans were gone. Someone had deliberately trashed my deck. My first thought was, should code be this petty? Then I remembered the security cameras I'd installed after a package theft. I pulled up the footage and felt a surge of anger mixed with grim satisfaction. There was Linda, clear as day, sneaking into my yard at 1:30 a.m., pouring what looked like paint thinner and scratching the wood with some tool. I called the police to report trespassing and vandalism, and the officer who showed up couldn't hide his amusement. "We see a lot of HOA spats," he said, shaking his head, "but this is next level." After the police left with a copy of the VY Deo, I sent the footage to the HOA board with an estimate for repairs. Then I got back to work, cleaning up the mess and repainting the damaged spots. I was up on my ladder when Linda came back, this time barging through my side gate without so much as a knock. "Your saw still saw at it?" she shrieked. "I told you to stop this nonsense." I took a deep breath. "Linda, you're trespassing. Please leave." She puffed up like a peacock. "I'm the HOA president. I have every right to inspect violations." I stayed calm, my phone already recording. "The bylaws don't give you permission to enter private property, and I have proof you vandalized my deck last night." Her eyes flickered, but she doubled down. "That's absurd. You're just dodging your own violations." Then, in a moment of pure chaos, she grabbed one of my paint buckets and yanked it, spilling stain across the deck in her fancy shoes. "What are you doing?" I shouted, starting down the ladder. "That's mine." In her frenzy, Linda shoved me as I stepped off, hard enough that I stumbled. "Look what you made me do," she screeched, staring at her ruined outfit. "You did this on purpose." I didn't take the bait. Instead, I dialed 911, keeping my phone's camera rolling. "I need to report an assault and trespassing," I said, locking eyes with her. Linda's face cycled through shock, disbelief, and rage. "You're calling the cops on Sami Saw? Do you know who I am?" "Yeah," I said coolly. "You're someone who's trespassing, vandalizing, and now assaulting me, and it's all on camera." The police arrived fast, probably because of my earlier report. Linda launched into a tirade about HOA rules and property values, but the officers cut her off after about 30 seconds. I showed them the footage, both the nighttime vandalism and her latest stunt, including the shove. "Ma'am," one officer said, pulling out handcuffs, hands behind your back. The look on Linda's face, pure, indignant shock, was something I'll never forget. "This is outrageous," she sputtered. "I'm the VY Tim. He's breaking community standards." The officer wasn't VYing it. "You're being detained for trespassing, vandalism, and assault. Those are laws, not HOA guidelines." By now, neighbors were peeking out, some filming as Linda, covered in paint, was led to the cruiser, still yelling about her innocence. The fallout was swift. Linda faced charges for trespassing, vandalism, and simple assault. With the VY Deo EVY Denke airtight, her lawyer pushed for a plea deal, 6 months probation, a due law, $5,000 fine, and full restitution for my deck. She got a restraining order, keeping her 50 feet from my property. The HOA board held an emergency meeting and voted 7-0 to boot her as president. When the vote was announced, Linda gasped. "After all I've done for this community, you'll regret this. Property values will tank." In a delicious twist, the board updated the paint guidelines, making Saw My Saw stain the new standard for the neighborhood. Linda's face turned beet red, and she stormed out, slamming the door so hard a framed copy of the bylaws crashed to the floor. I finished my deck the next weekend, and it looks fantastic. Neighbors even stopped by to congratulate me. One GI VYing me a thumbs up as Linda was carted off. But here's where I want to hear from you. Was I wrong to push back so hard, or was Linda way out of line? Should HOA presidents have the power to barge into private yards? Could I have handled this differently to avoid the chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're Team Deck, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood tales. Let's get this debate rolling.